Jeff, we're going to start this one off with a question, okay? We're going to get everybody involved. I'm going to put a poll up, and you know the drill. Slide down it like your mother, all right? Is Fortnite a simulation? The overall game, the entire experience, is Fortnite a simulation? The answer should overwhelmingly be yes, right? But there's a reason why I'm asking you all this question. Because of the 0-hour live event, because of what we experienced, because of that, more specifically, the little screen that popped up during the YouTube video of all things, right? And I'm gonna pull that screen up real quick right here, real quick. This is what popped up for a split second. The Theorist community, God bless them, they screenshotted this bad boy quick. Within seconds, we had this all over Twitter. But at the end of the live event, we were given this in it was actually for the trailer. This was in the trailer for Chapter 7, the cinematic trailer. But this is what we see here, okay? Training run complete. Total elapsed time in base reality, 8 years, 9 weeks, 3 days, 9 hours, 30 minutes. Total simulated times across all iterations. Now this is insanely interesting here. 1.06 times, I'm assuming that's 10 to the 11th power years. Learning phase complete. Aaron gave me $5. Decommissioning error. What is that? God, they got purple on purple here. Decommissioning error. I think that's containment protocol or check protocol something. The dark presence. Okay, this is something that Loot and I were talking about earlier today. We debated this section. Decommissioning anomaly. Containment protocol. You see cube runes, right? Beginning phase 2. Executing program, and then more runes here, right? So let's break this whole thing down, Doug. First of all, the great thing about this image is that this confirmed what theorists have been talking about really for the last 6-7 years, which is that the last reality has kind of been control over everything. The last reality has kind of been lurking in the shadows in the background. So right here, where it says total elapsed time in base reality, 8 years, 9 weeks, 3 days, 9 hours, 30 minutes. Okay, that was the amount of time that Fortnite as a game has guys, God damn it, 6-7, shut up. That's the amount of time that Fortnite as a game has existed. The weird thing to me about this that I'm noticing is when it says base reality, okay? Because what does that mean? The first 3 chapters of Fortnite were all in reality 0, right? Chapters 1, 2, and 3. After that, we had Fracture, Island split apart. It appeared that the 0 point went to a different reality. Allegedly, the reality maybe where Paradigm is from. We see at the start of the Chapter 4 cinematic trailer, right, where Mr. Beast and everybody in it. But we see what Zero Fusion is for the first time. So when the 0 point creates an island, wraps an island around itself, right? So that would have been whatever reality was at that time. Then we travel through time, go back to reality 0 on the original Chapter 1 island. We do the whole black hole event all over again. But this time, instead of creating a new flip side to the island, we've now scattered the 0 point across the Omniverse, and in turn, it looks like the 0 point has attached itself to different islands in different realities, which really complicates things. We had the remix reality. There was a 0 point shard of the remix reality that eventually left and went to Onioshima, which is where we spent all our time in Chapter 6, right? I also skipped over Chapter 5. My bad. We spent, I don't think there was a 0 point shard in Chapter 5. Or at least maybe the 0 point shard that was in Chapter 5 went to Remix. I don't know exactly how that really all worked out. I don't think there was a 0 point shard. The Remix reality was a dream. Was that confirmed? I don't think it was a dream, but I could be wrong. Regardless, whether it was or wasn't, I don't think it could have been because the 0 point shard came out of that reality into the Chapter 6 island. And then, of course, after that, we went into So after Remix, we went to Chapter 6. Chapter 6, we end that off, going to Chapter 7. Alps, thank you for the 33 months. Holy crap. Our looper first arrived 8 years ago. Yes. Here's the reason why I'm bringing all this stuff up, right? Chapters 1 through 3 was one reality. Chapter 4 was a different reality. Chapter 5, you could argue, was potentially reality 0. We don't know. Remix was potentially its own reality. Actually, we know it wasn't a dream. We know it was its own reality because when the Big Bang event happened, you could actually see the Remix reality in all those different galaxies and everything that were there, plus the 0 point shard came from this. So yeah, we know that actually wasn't a dream. That was actually real. So that was its own reality. The other thing too is Blitz, Reload, and God. What's the other one, chat? The one Ballistic. Those are also all their own realities as well. So that's the thing. The Lego also ties into the storyline. That's its own reality. So we've had all of these different realities that the game has taken place in. Or so we thought, right? So when you see this a total elapsed time in base reality, what reality are they referring to? Are they specifically referring to reality 0? Or is everything that we've experienced in the context of Fortnite, the game, the metaverse, the BRs, everything, is that all one big reality that the last reality is making us play in? There's one thing that I find interesting about the last reality, because let's talk about them for a second, okay? The last reality, and more specifically the Nothing, they appear to operate outside of time and space. The reason why I say this is because the last reality has knowledge of the future. The way that they look at time is different than the person that's someone that's placed in time. Imagine for a moment, right? If you existed outside of time, it would be as if you were looking at a parade from a skyscraper. So you can see, even though like the people in the parade, they don't know all the twists and turns and where everything's going, where the parade's going to go while they're in the middle of it. You up above in your skyscraper in the window looking down at everything can see where the procession is going. That's exactly how the Nothing, or the last reality, seems to look at time, seems to observe time, because they exist outside of it. This would also probably explain why they're able to manipulate time, or they can, not even necessarily manipulate time, but more so they can predict what things are going to happen and influence certain things. Recently on the channel, I posted a video talking about the time loop theory that was received with a lot of praise. I appreciate everybody that watched the time loop theory. I would recommend, if you have not watched the time loop theory, go watch that, because it does directly correlate with this. I do think that because of the Nothing, the power that the Nothing has, the power that the last reality has, I think they are able to loop us in time over and over and over again. That's why. And actually, the crazy thing is this almost confirms it here, right, in this image. Because it says total simulated time across all iterations. Iterations could be, you can swap that word out for versions, right? Total time simulated across all versions, 1.06 times 10, I'm assuming that's to the 11th power years. What this is telling me is that the last reality has done this, has been playing with this base reality, whatever the context of the base reality is, they've been playing with it for this amount of time. So, for example, if you exist inside of this base reality and you're experiencing things inside the base reality, time flows different for you than things outside of the base reality. It seems like in order for you to get into the base reality, you have to come into contact with the 0 point. So anytime, let's say, Goku or Optimus Prime or Batman or Superman or Star Wars or Homer Simpson, when they come into the Fortnite universe, they are inside the base reality to some degree. I think this right here is the total amount of time that the last reality has messed around with like the Fortnite game. So you know how in the time loop theory, I said that the Visitor had been looped multiple times. He's gone through OG multiple times. His original suit had all the tally marks on it, like we were talking about before, for him to show how many times he had gone through it before, gone through the loop before, or gone through the whole process. I explained how everything in Fortnite kind of loops back together. This calculation here, once Aaron's done with it, should give us the roughly the if this number is what I'm claiming that it is, this would give us the amount of times that the Nothing, or the last reality, has put people through this loop. But then you have to ask yourself the question, well, why did it go through so many iterations? What is it trying to accomplish? Here's the interesting part right here. Let's go to this next part. Learning phase complete. It's 106 billion. Okay, guys, I'm seeing a lot of different calculations. 6,741 million years, 106 billion years. I'm saying 106 billion years. Let's get some people to fact check that in chat real quick. Let me say this real quick before I continue. This is why I like this image, because it even though it doesn't give you the complete picture, you can kind of see like the gaps starting to be filled in a little bit here, right? Starfish guy, what's up, bro? Good to see you. This is the thing that's tough about this whole situation, and especially when we get, because we're gonna get into the more of the simulation part here in a minute, right? The last reality, look, it appears that there's something that they were trying to figure out. There was something that they were trying to perfect. So this is the crazy thing about it. All of the different things that we've experienced in Fortnite over the last 8 years, this is just one. Think of it like this. This is one iteration. This calculation here will tell you how many different iterations of Fortnite there's actually been in the Fortnite universe, right? But from our perspective as players of the game, the entire storyline as we know it, as we've seen it, has been the one iteration. But as I pointed out in the time loop theory, there's been evidence to suggest that this is not the first time that we've been through this. But that's not really what we're trying to get to here. We're trying to talk about like what was the point of it all? Like why? Hold on a second. 1 trillion years, brother. How are we getting this many different like calculations for it, bro? I need a mathematician. Albus, can you figure it out? I clearly think that our looper was part of the last reality and that we were sent here to be trained. That could be a valid theory as well, Alps. That's entirely possible too. But let me get back to what I'm trying to get to here. Well, listen, regardless of if it's 106 million years, 1 trillion years, a billion years, whatever the amount of time is, based on this calculation, I'm too lazy to do it myself. I'm sorry. But regardless of what this calculation comes out to be here, right? The point is the last reality has been using all these different iterations to try to figure out the best way to, I'm assuming, to get access to the 0 point. Because here's the thing, and this is what I don't think a lot of people understand. If I'm trying to figure out why the last reality had to go through so many iterations, the question I need to ask myself is, well, what are they lacking? What are they not able to accomplish, right? And what's their end goal? We know for a fact they want the 0 point. The 0 point, for whatever reason, probably because it's the source of all creation, right? But the 0 point seems to be the one thing that kind of stops the last reality from being able to just control the omniverse and do whatever it is that they're trying to do with reality. But at the same time, the 0 point is vulnerable. And the more times that you attack it, the weaker over time it gets, right? We talked about this on stream recently too. All the events from like chapter 1 all the way through, let's say, chapter 4 made the 0 point incredibly weak to the point where it had to go in that petrified state back in the chapter 4 island, right? Where it was kind of hard to look like it was like in a metal ball. That's because of all the abuse that it endured. The more it got tampered with, the weaker it became. But the thing is, the last reality, if in order to make the 0 point weaker, they had to facilitate and they had to find ways to be able to get to it. So they had to orchestrate situations in which the 0 point would have to be tampered with. And here's the thing that I think is really interesting. Geno Geno knew this, which is why at the end of Zero War, he was telling the Foundation, he's like, look, man, I'm paraphrasing here, but he's like, look, bro, you're going to find out real quick why I had to do what I was doing. Why my goal was to protect and perfect everything in the Omniverse. But hey, you know what? Good luck to you, man. The burden is on you. Like, honestly, Geno, from when you read the comic, it feels like a weight is being lifted off of Geno's shoulders. Like, I don't have to try to hold this ship together anymore, man. And from the trailer that we saw, Geno, the Imagined Order, they were able to hold the 0 point down for 1,000 years. So, in this calculation, there was some kind of linchpin that was put into the system where Geno and the Imagined Order were able to hold down for at least for 1,000 of these years in this calculation. The last reality couldn't get to the 0 point. That was until the 7. And I think that's when the last reality was able to kind of start tampering with certain things. They were able to manipulate the 7 into doing certain things. They were using the 7's good or righteous actions or philosophy against them, because in the background, the last reality is like, listen, please fight the Imagined Order for us, kill them, wipe them out, bro, get them out of the way, free the 0 point. That way, we can come in and take it. And see, by the time us, the Looper, experience Fortnite, we're seeing the final iteration of this, and now, at the end of chapter 6, right before we go into 7, shut up, chat, we see That's why we're getting this screen, training run complete. But has all of Fortnite been one big simulation? Yes. The answer is yes. But when we use the term simulation, God damn it, what does that word mean when we use it, right? When a lot of the Fortnite community is using the term simulation, they're looking at it from the standpoint of The Matrix, like the movie The Matrix, right? Like, as in, this is all one big video game that everybody's playing in, kind of like Tron or something, where the reality that you're in, that you exist in, isn't real. And basically, the last reality is able to go into the reality because it's like a computer program and manipulate it, right? That's one interpretation of simulation. But let me give you the one that I think is the most accurate. Everything that we've experienced inside of Fortnite, in terms of the realities that we've been to, all of that, that's all of that is real. All the things that we've experienced, that we've been through, are real. There's two key details as to why we know this, right? Because everyone's like, "Oh, was Chapter 6 and backwards, was all that a dream? Are we now in the real Fortnite?" No, all of it was real. This is why we know this. Number one, Hope exists. Hope came from Fortnite Chapter 5. We spent a lot of time with her in 6. And now she's still in Fortnite Chapter 7. If it was all a dream and some fakes, why is Hope a real person? There's that. But also, the 0 point itself is fragmented, just like it was in the dream, right? Or in the fake reality. What I'm getting at is this. The actions that were taken in the Fortnite storyline over the last 6 chapters had consequences. And you're seeing those consequences getting played out in real time. And now in Chapter 7, it's kind of the culmination of a lot of these different plot points that have built up over the last few years. They're kind of all coming together. If what I'm saying is true, what's the simulated part of this whole situation here, this whole theory? In the real world, militaries go through simulations. They have fake combat training simulations. It's not that real bullets are necessarily flying past your head, right? But they prepare you and they gear you up to actually go into combat. Now, when it comes to the last reality, it appears that they were in combat with, whether it be the 7 or the Imagined Order. But I think what all of this has been one big simulation, not for us, but for the last reality. I think that they were trying to assess and figure out the best way to wipe everybody out. That's why for example, one iteration you could argue, or one threat that we had to fight would have been the cubes, and that was pretty aggressive, right? Or actually, let's back it up, because there's been a few different creatures that we've had to fight over the years. First, it was like the purple cube and the cube zombies, right? Okay, well, we dealt with that. That wasn't enough. Okay, well, then it became the Cube Queen and the Chimera and like the aliens and all that from Chapter 2, Season 7 and 8. Well, we found a way to beat them. Okay, well, let's send something a little bit more aggressive. Let's send in the Herald and the Chrome. That blew the island apart. That exposed the 0 point, right? That was once again, it's all, you notice how over the course of the Fortnite storyline, the enemies that we face, generally speaking, they get a bit more aggressive, and they were getting closer and closer to achieving their goal of grabbing the 0 point, up until the point that we introduced time travel, or did we? Right, because there was always that rumor that Cato Thorn was part of Cato Thorn was part of the last reality, right? So this is another thing I think people need to understand, is that all of the different soldiers or armies that were sent by the last reality were really pawns that were put in place. There's a technique that you use in chess or checkers, right, where you'll put certain pieces out there for your opponent to claim, right? So like my granddad and I, we used to play checkers a lot. So you put a piece in a certain spot and you jump that piece, and so that piece gets taken off the board. Chess, similar things happen, right? But if you're an experienced checkers player or chess player, what you'll do is you'll set up certain pieces to where your opponent is taking out a lot of your pieces on the board, but you set up your opponent in a way to where, yes, you may have taken out 2 of my guys, but because I put them in those positions, now I can jump boom, 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 boom. I can jump 5 of your players. And that's the exact game that the last reality has been playing with us the entire time. That's why Cato Thorn was sent with the time machine. because the last reality, because they exist outside of time and space, they can look at this giant parade that they have, right, which is reality zero, or the base reality. They can go in and start manipulating, putting pawns in place, putting pieces in place, because they know, like, okay, let's send Cato Thorn in. Yeah, he's going to die, but we're also going to send the Cube Cradle in towards the Fortnite Island, and Dr. Sloan's going to pick up on that. And so, because she's desperate and because the 0 point is already petrified, well, that's going to require them to do a Hail Mary play, and they're going to send Jonesy back in time, which, okay, that's cool. They'll send Jonesy back in time. That might buy them a little bit of time, right? But that's also what that's going to do is it's going to force Jonesy to do something drastic by tying the time machine to the Visitor's rocket and redoing the black hole event all over again. But what they don't know is that the 0 point is more unstable now. So instead of it, reforming and doing zero fusion again and creating a single island around itself, now the 0 point's going to fracture and be split all throughout the Omniverse. That way we can grab multiple pieces of it while they're focused on this one piece. So I guarantee you, bro, the last reality, they're going throughout the Omniverse grabbing different pieces of the 0 point. While Jones and Hope are focused on this one in Onioshima, or the one that the Dark Presence has, last reality's picking up 0 point shards everywhere else. You see what I'm saying? But my point is that's more or less where I kind of look at the simulation, how the simulation works. Last couple of things I want to mention here regarding this. Decommissioning error. I really wish I knew what this said right here. But decommissioning error, something protocol, the Dark Presence. This, once again, like I said, how we get newer and more aggressive threats like every single time. This to me seems like the Dark Presence was one of the threats sent in by the last reality. Once again, another pawn. But the difference is that this one went a little rogue. This one started going crazy, started doing some things that didn't serve the last reality's needs. And so what they did is they sent a decommission. They sent in the containment protocol. They're decommissioning the anomaly being the Dark Presence. Their containment protocol, you see the cube runes here, right? I'm assuming this is meaning the red cube. Because the red cube was sent in, kicked into the chest of the Dark Presence. Dark Presence is blown up, right? Once that's done, they can now begin phase 2. And they're executing program blank. And this is where we are now. We are now in phase 2 of whatever the last reality is planning. And it has everything to do with this new version of the Dark Voyager that's on the Fortnite Island. But more specifically, I think what we're seeing right now and what we're building up to is the nothing finally making itself known. And we're seeing like little posters and stuff all over the Fortnite Island right now. But more specifically, I think the nothing has been somebody that we've built a relationship with on the Fortnite Island for a long time. And after you kind of look at the time loop theory, as well as my understanding or my version of the, my brain's not working right now. The simulation theory, right? The theory that I have for who the nothing is kind of makes sense in a way. So chat, I think what we need to do right now, let's have that conversation about Peely being the nothing.